have a good night if you're watching this at night. Thank you guys for whoever is tuning in tonight. This is I am yourself, and this is the All Facts. Turn that down a little bit. This is All Facts TV. Like I said, I am your host, yourself. Today we're going to be talking about the Changeling. I think I got into it before. I had part one, my last podcast. If you guys haven't seen that already, check that out. Today's broadcast is brought to you by Kofa Self Skin Care Products. My first line of products will be a product line called Self Royalty. It is all over body oil. It replaces deodorant, and it also replaces lotion. I haven't used the lotion or deodorant for the last 2 years as I've been developing this product. It's going to be my first product. Like I said, it's called Self Royalty. It's a great product. Great product. It has patchouli. It has geranium oil. It has frankincense. And it also has hemp seed oil and neem oil. Carrier oils are jojoba and first cold press olive oil. It's such a great product. Such a great product. It helps healing. It smells divine. It's not too masculine. It's not too feminine. It's right in between. It's definitely for men and for women, which is great. It helps a lot with scars. It's antibacterial, and it really, really helps with your feet. If you have any problems with your feet, with feet fungus, or you're having problems with athlete's foot or anything of that nature, it's very, very good as a preventative. And it also, it's just really good for your feet. So if you're looking for all body oil, this is going to be the best thing. If you have any questions about it, please leave a comment below. Also, like, share, and subscribe. I really, really would appreciate that. Like I said, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you watching. I hope you like the show. Cash App is working. That would be $ Tahuti, as you see there on the ticker. Let's get into this. Today's show, like I said, is about the Changeling, part 2 on the Changeling. First podcast, I talked about witchcraft, and this movie has a lot to do with witchcraft. It also resonates a lot with me because the main character, who is Apollo in this, he is an only child. He also has abandonment issues based on his father not being in his home. His father left his home when he was 4 years old due to his mom. Oh, I meant to say, I hope I'm not spoiling the movie for you. I tried to wait 5 months, 6 months after the movie came out. I liked it so much when it came out. I saw it when it first premiered on Apple TV, but I wanted to wait to react on it because I didn't want to spoil it for anybody. But if you haven't watched it, please, by all means, go to Apple TV. Lakeith Stanfield is the main character in the movie. He is Apollo. Plays a great part. I love him as an actor. He's starting to move up in my favorite categories as far as actors are concerned. But he was the reason why I wanted to check the movie out, and it ended up being a really, really good. It's not a movie. It's a television series where you have to binge watch it. It took me, a week or so to watch it. The first 3 episodes are really, really good. So we're going to be breaking down these first 3 episodes. Like I said, this character resonated a lot with me. I believe that he has only child syndrome like me. If you guys don't know what only child syndrome is, it has a lot to do with abandonment. It has a lot to do with, like in my case, I I always had father figures in my life. My grandfather was a great father figure. The father that I grew up with was a great father figure, even though he wasn't in the home. But I still dealt with those issues of, especially being an only child and clinging to my mother, and only, believing that, all women were my mother, and believing that I had to reproduce what my father didn't give to my mother. I hope I'm saying that right, because I don't know if that just has to do with me or has to do with only child syndrome. But you kind of cling to the parent that was there, and you kind of over-identify what it is to be either a wife or a husband or a baby daddy or a baby mother. You kind of overdo it with that. And this is what this character did. Like I said, the main character, his name was Apollo. Looking at my notes here. Excuse me for looking down. The main character was Apollo. And in the first part of the first series was basically a breakdown of how his mom came to this country. His mom was from Africa, and she was driving down the street with her brother, and they ended up getting stopped, pulled over, and on a traffic stop. I'm not sure why the police were so mean to them, but they wanted them to give them gas or something of that nature, and they wanted the brother to get out of the car. He didn't want to leave the car because he wanted to stay in the car and protect the sisters. They didn't like that, and then they ended up shooting him in the stomach, and he ended up dying. And they ran away, and his mom basically ran to America, all the way over to America, to try to get away from this, this terrible system that they have over there. I think that really was saying that, especially Black women are kind of betrayed by their Black men. Or they're made to believe that, or maybe they believe that because it's true, or maybe it's not true. But I think that Black women have felt as though they've been let down by their Black men and are not protected by their Black men. I believe that they feel that, and I believe that they hold this deep, deep, deep resentment for Black men. When his mom came over here, she came over here, and she was a single Black female. I didn't see any of her other sisters, even though she had sisters in the car with her when her brother was killed. But they didn't, go off on talking about her sisters in the movie, in the series. She just was over here by herself. She had to get employment. She started to work at an agency that had to do with books, I believe. Can't really remember exactly what her title was, but I know that it was some type of an editing company, and her first job wasn't at an editing company. It was at a modeling agency that was posing for money laundering type of thing. And what ended up happening is the man Brian, who was Apollo's father, who was a white man, ended up courting his mom, courting Apollo's mom. And he ended up getting her fired from her job because he was her boss's parole officer, and he, found out about the money laundering business and shut the modeling agency down. Obviously, she lost her job. She was really, really mad at him, and he, was enamored with her, and he never gave up. He had persistence that ended up being inherited by Apollo, and she ended up dating him. She ended up liking him, they ended up getting married and having Apollo. On Apollo's fourth birthday, Apollo ended up the father ended up leaving her and Apollo. In the beginning, you thought that the father abandoned her. They made reference to the fact that he believed that she was cheating all the time, and when you watch the movie, it seemed that she was taking opportunities with other men, because him as a police officer in New York City, police officers in New York City, or parole officers in New York City, he was a parole officer, were making too much money. They were living, it's very expensive in New York City, and that way someplace would be pretty good for a person, but there it's not really worth anything. So, her being here by herself and not having any help and not having a husband that could provide this life for her that she was looking for, she basically started to move on, and he always thought she was cheating based on his insecurity, or whether she was really cheating. They never really put on to what was happening. You'll see in the later episodes, we'll get to later, that things started. I believe that she was cheating. If you don't believe she was cheating and you saw the movie, please comment down below. And I will try to answer all comments. But there again, let's get back to the story. So she ended up kicking Apollo's father out. And Apollo's father still wanted to be in his son's life. And Apollo, he really struggled with the fact that his mom had made it out that his father left him, which wasn't the case at all. She put him out and she moved on without him. Like I said, I believe that she was cheating, and I believe that she did love him, but I believe that she didn't believe that he could provide for her and Apollo. So I believe that she tried to move off. So she ended up getting a job at, like I said, an editing place. And at this editing place, her boss there was also liking her. He was leaving tickets on the plate, on her typewriter, and they made it out to be that he was a womanizer, because he had all women working in the company, and they all knew what was happening to Apollo's mother. They knew that he was going to be relentless, and they knew what he was about. So he was basically using his power to court these women sexually. And her being in the sexual marketplace, her being young, I believe that she felt victim to that. Because she was a single parent, and at first she was denying the boss's advances. He punished her by telling her that she had to work 9 o'clock sharp every Saturday. She had no babysitter. Her babysitter had to go and see her mother at the time every Saturday. And she wasn't willing to compromise her schedule. So it placed Apollo's mom in a bad position where she had to leave the child alone home while she worked 8 hours. Apollo was 4 at the time, maybe going on 5. And he was home alone all day by himself. If you can imagine that in New York City. While he was home alone, I guess his father ended up getting wind of the situation and started coming by the apartment and staying with his son while she was gone. One day, Apollo's mom came home and found out that they were together, and she ended up kicking the father out again. which made absolutely no sense to me. But she told Apollo that father had abandoned him. Now that brings up the framework of the first episodes, at least the beginning parts. Now, I want to get into the characters. First character's name is Apollo. Now, before I get into the first character, I just want you to know that Hollywood controls us in our thinking with misdirection. Misdirection is a story, and I got this by Penn and Teller. But he described misdirection as a story a person tells themselves to believe in the magic or the so-called magic that they're about to go through. It's a form of mind control where the person believes what is unbelievable. And the misdirection in Hollywood is for them to influence us subconsciously through movies and television, which ends up being black magic in itself. It's sorcery, especially when you know the fact that people like Oprah Winfrey have said that she actually calls up spirits. She empties herself in her mind, and she allows spirits to come into her and act for her. We referenced Beyonce, who was also what I believe is to be a witch. There again, I said before, I am not trying to bully. I am not attempting to down Beyonce's name. But, it is what it is. The proof is in the pudding. He identifies with the goddess Oshun. And she said herself that Sasha Fierce, the spirit, actually comes in her and performs on stage. Now, these things don't just happen happenstancely. They don't just happen by coincidence. You have to call these spirits into you in order for them to happen. It just doesn't happen that way. So this is the reason why I referenced her as a witch. Let's go back into really quick what the definition of witch is. A witch is a person that uses magic or sorcery or magical influence to attract or charm. This is what a witch is. She uses sorcery and magic. So let's go back to what sorcery is. Sorcery is the use of supernatural powers, others, or through the assistance of spirits. Witchcraft is the power. Sorcery is the power behind witchcraft. I hope you guys understood that. Sometimes it's hard for me to understand my own handwriting. I write in a way where I think, and sometimes, it's kind of hard to understand my own writing. So now, let's go back to, sorry about that, just dropped something. Let's go back to what magic is. Magic is the power behind sorcery that comes from the spirits, which was given by the spirits. Okay? It is also a misdirection. Okay? So, let's get back to that. This is the reason why I said that people like Rihanna and Nicki Minaj who also has an alternate spirit, are witches because they're getting power from a supernatural realm, from the spirits, to alter what people think about them in a way in which they have control and they get rich off of it. So that is, in a nutshell, what witchcraft is. They're using witchcraft, so in my opinion, they're witches. Like I said before, if you guys disagree with me, please leave a comment down below. Now, what that has to do with the story is we'll get to that in 1 second. Let's talk about the main characters. Okay, the first main character's name is Apollo. Apollo is the god of archery, dance, truth, and prophecy, healing, and disease. He is the sun god of light and poetry. He is the son of Zeus. His mother is Leto. You know, when I did this research, I didn't know who Leto was. I thought, you know, I was pretty much an expert on Greek gods, Roman gods, but I never heard of Leto. He also had a twin sister named Artemis. Okay. Now, Artemis is the goddess of vegetation, childbirth, care, and of children. And she is also the goddess of chastity. Okay, now this is Apollo's twin sister. She is the moon god. So he is the sun and she is the moon. She is the goddess Diana, who was a Roman goddess and also was the goddess that Michael Jackson was talking about as Dirty Diana. Now, you guys got to remember, I don't know if you guys know what sin is, S-I-N, when they say you are sinning. I'm not sure you guys understand what that word is and where it comes from. What is sin? Sin is when you do what is dark. Okay? When you do what is outside of the light and truth of the Most High. Okay? Sin is the moon. Sin is the goddess of the moon, which is another word for Artemis. Sin. So you have the sun god, you have the moon god. Okay? Now, Apollo ends up meeting a woman in a library. The woman's name was Emma. She's a librarian. Like I said, I don't think I said it before, but I'll say it now. Apollo really got into books. His mom would give him books as gifts. And instead of him watching television, he would read a lot of books. And he ended up being very, very good at reading books. He ended up being into books a lot. So he ended up, as he got older, he would find rare books and resell them. He'd find rare writings, rare things, and he would resell them. So he ended up running into Emma as a librarian in the first chapter of the installment. He was enamored by Emma because of the way she handled a homeless man that came in to use the bathroom. The homeless man was obviously mentally ill, and he wanted to use the bathroom. And she asked for his ID. He obviously didn't have any ID. He said he didn't have any ID, but he really needed to use the bathroom. So in order for him to get the key to the bathroom, she said that he needed to leave his bags. He said that there were state secrets in his bag. Now, I looked for some underlying things that had to do with that, but I really couldn't find anything. I just saw that he was mentally ill. So, the guy was irate when he was telling her he needed the key to the bathroom, and he was yelling and screaming. He remained composed, and she made a deal with him that she stood firm. If he didn't leave his bags, then he wouldn't be able to use the bathroom. She calmed down, and he calmed down. He ended up leaving his bags and using the bathroom. Apollo watched this whole thing, and he was very impressed by the way she handled the situation. So he went down to her, and he shot a shot at her. He asked her to go to dinner. She rejected him. So he kept coming to the library. He came once, he came twice, he came 6 times. She denied him all 6 times. On the 7th time, he came, checking out his book, and he just looked at her, knowing that she would reject him again. And obviously, by this time, Apollo was extremely persistent. Apollo had a delusion of grandeur that he was an actual god. He was the actual god Apollo, which in the movie he actually is. We'll get to that. But this obviously started to get to him, and he just looked at her, and she said yes. She said yes to the date. He ended up taking her on a date. Her name was Emma Valentine, which I thought was very ironic, because I just did a podcast on Valentine's Day and how the agenda was to kill love and ruin the relationship between a man and a woman, to cripple the family and take away the family. If you guys don't see this, they are attacking family and they are attacking women. Now, Emma in German means universe. In Greek, it means blood. In Hebrew, it means all containing, or God has answers, or God is with us. This is what Emma means. Valentine goes back, I believe, to Valentine's Day and that whole agenda. If you guys haven't seen that, please go back into my library. Please subscribe. Go back to my library and watch that video. It's a very, very good video, if I may say so myself. I put a lot of work into the videos. Now, they end up, these two, like I said, hopefully I'm not spoiling this movie for you, but they end up getting married, and she has a son named Brian. Now, Brian in Irish means high or noble. It means mighty. It's a symbolic of strength, virtue, and bravery. Okay? Now, you guys may think that, when they name these characters, they don't have all of these things in mind. But believe me, your mind picks up on everything. I think people really underestimate the power of thinking, the power of mind, the power of your memory. Your mind never forgets anything. It files it in a place, but it never forgets anything. It's sort of like the internet, where nothing can really ever be deleted. It can be covered up where you can't see it, but it really can't be deleted. They can take your hard drive and find everything that you've ever done. And your brain is the same way. So I really believe that they put thought in these characters and the names that these characters have, because subconsciously you'll stumble on other things in your life. So you see this now, and 3 years down the line, you'll learn about Apollo somewhere, and you'll kind of put these two things together in your mind, and this movement of the mind, I believe, they use this to control events. I believe they use this to bring forth prophecies and their agendas. I really believe that. Now, if you guys don't believe that, just think about how to use Hollywood. We'll take Poltergeist for instance. Poltergeist had a curse on it, because I believe they really summoned supernatural force. I believe that it had to do with black magic. I think black magic is Hollywood. If you go back to the definition of Hollywood, Hollywood comes from the holly tree. It's something that the Celtics would use for their magic wands. I believe Hollywood is a magic wand used in sorcery. I believe that they actually use spirits. Look at Heath Ledger when he did the Joker. I saw a documentary where Jack Nicholson was warning him about playing the Joker, who is the embodiment of what Satan is, the Joker. And he warned him about playing Satan because these actors know that they have to ask the spirit to come in there. And Jack Nicholson played the character before, and I believe that he understood the danger of it. I think we all know what happened to Heath Ledger. It was tragic what happened to him, but it happened to him right after that. We saw The Crow and what happened to Bruce Lee's son. But in Poltergeist, they had a curse. The main character was Carol Ann. Remember the little girl? Her real name was Heather O'Rourke. She was 6 years old at the time. And she was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. She ended up collapsing and dying of a heart attack. She died while she was being operated on. She ended up having a bowel blockage. And when they went in, the story is that they weren't able to find the bowel blockage. And she had a heart attack on the operating table. They had a few other people that died. I can't remember the other young lady's name, but she was the teen that ended up coming out. I remember in the Poltergeist when she ended up having a big giant hickey on her neck when she came out, when the Poltergeist had took over the home. She came out screaming. She had a big giant hickey on her neck. I'll never forget that as a kid. But she ended up being killed by her husband or her fiance. I can't really remember which one it was, but she ended up being killed brutally by him. He only ended up getting 3 years for her murder, which I felt was weird. If I must say so, I felt like that was weird. She ended up getting brutally killed. He only got 3 years. Then the old man in the movie, he ended up dying. He was old when he died, and he was to his time. I don't know if that had to do with the curse, but also the Native American that they had in it, that was, I think he was there to exorcise spirits in there. He ended up dying of something that had to do, it was his stomach and his lung had to be transplanted. He ended up dying. That was a really, really risky surgery, and he ended up dying. But they actually called that the Poltergeist curse. Now I can go into more curses and more things in Hollywood that explain why I believe that they use sorcery in movies. And I think they used it in this movie also. And we're going to get into those things. Now, so here we are. We got Apollo. We got Emma. and they meet, they fall in love. She tells Apollo that she denied him because she was going on a trip, and unfortunately I can't remember where it was she was going. I can't remember exactly where it was. So I'm doing a lot of this by memory. I didn't really write everything down. But she ends up going on this trip to it was a Spanish-speaking country. Can't remember it. If it drops in my mind, I definitely will go back to it. But she was going on this trip, and she was going to be gone for a long time. So she denied him, knowing that she was going to leave, and she didn't know when she was going to come back because she was trying to find herself somewhere. Come to find out that she was actually running from her life, trying to find a new one. While she was down there, it wasn't in Panama. Man, I can't remember. But while she was down there, she ended up wanting to go on an excursion alone, which was crazy to me that she went on this excursion alone. And she goes on this excursion, and they warned her about a lady that would be at a lagoon. It would be an old lady, and they kept telling her, do not go, do not meet this woman. So she did exactly that. She rebelled, and she did exactly what they told her not to do. And she goes on this excursion. She goes to the lagoon, and she finds this woman. Now, this movie, The Changeling, has a lot to do with biracial things. Because back to the word changeling. A changeling is a baby that is replaced. Well, fairies come and take a child and replace it with a demon. And in the movie, you'll see that it's a whole bunch of missing children. I think they're insinuating that these children have been taken and replaced by fairies. Now, I did my history, and I found out in witchcraft, most practicing witches are pagans. Pagan is a person that worships other gods. They worship the creation and not the creator. It could be sun, it could be the moon, it could be the stars, it could be trees, it could be the ocean, it could be anything. But in this worship, they have fairies, they have trolls, they have, unicorns, all of this stuff. This is pagan religion. I think they make it easier for the target to come into this trick, what they call paganism, and they make it more palatable for them to make them believe in these things and not call them demons. You can't you can't worship something that you're actively afraid of. I don't believe that you can. Fear comes in different things. It comes in curiosity, and it also comes in self-preservation. I think if you have fear that comes in the form of self-preservation, I don't think that you can worship that thing. That's why even in Satanism, they say there is no devil. There's only, the self. They say that they worship themselves, which in itself is Luciferianism, by the way. Luciferianism is the way to Satanism. Once you get into Satanism, then you get into rituals. And once you get into rituals, and you get, what they do is they get you out too far with your sacrifices, with everything else that comes with it. We're not going to talk about these things on this podcast because it gets ugly. I'm not sure how YouTube would respond to it. But when you start getting into these things, these rituals, you get so far down that rabbit hole that you believe that you can't come back. You'll never see the light of God again. And that's basically what these religions are about. Now, they say that your child gets taken by fairies. Now, there's a book that he reads, and I wrote it in my notes what the name of this book was, but right now I'm going off the top of my head. Literally, I'm not even using my notes. I'm going off the top of my head. I don't know whether that's a good or bad thing. But he reads a book that has to do with fairies. And like I said, the name of this story is The Changeling because of that. Now, he ends up seeing this woman. The woman has blonde hair, one blue eye, one brown eye. And I believe that is a representation of a half white, half black woman. The woman is obviously a witch. She knows who Emma is without Emma telling her name. She knows that Emma was warned not to come to the lagoon and meet her, yet she came anyway. She knows Emma. And the woman grabs Emma's wrist at the lagoon. And I don't know if anybody else notices this when they watch it, but when she grabs her wrist, the lagoon and the waterfall that she's sitting at ends up going backwards. Now, that is definitely a sign of Satanism going backwards. It has to do with anti. As is above, so is below. They make Satanists actually say the Lord's Prayer backwards. They do a lot of things backwards. They walk backwards. I think this was the moonwalk was about with Michael Jackson. But the waterfall begins to go backwards. And as it begins to go backwards, he has a red string symbolizing the Kabbalah, which I believe is the Kabbalah. Now, they don't say this in the movie, but I just know this. She has a red string. And she tells Emma she will tie the string with 3 knots. And by the time she ties the string with 3 knots, Emma is to make 3 wishes. Emma makes the 3 wishes. She ties the 3 knots. And she tells Emma, do not cut the string. She says when the string falls off of her wrist, the 3 wishes will come true. Emma goes back home. She sees Apollo. She tells Apollo about the whole trip. Almost the whole trip. She didn't tell her about the Norwegian man that she had met and had, I believe, had a fling with. She didn't tell her about that. We'll get to that on the next installment. So she tells Apollo that about the string and about everything that she went through. Apollo, being Apollo, says, I am the great Apollo, and I will make all your wishes come true. And he takes a knife and he cuts the string. They pan back to the woman that was at the lagoon with the blonde hair and the blue eye. And she knew the second that the string was cut, he knew it had begun. Now, I think this is a good place to end this one. It's been about 45 minutes on this podcast. We'll be back for the second installment, where I'll get more into the movie and I'll get more into what the movie has to do, what is going on right now. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming out. Again, quote for self. skin products. Check me out. You're gonna love this product. You're gonna love this product, you guys. Please leave a comment down below, and I will get my website up, and I'll get this thing to you anywhere I can. Right now, I'm in the process of getting everything done, and I'm going through a lot right now for myself. But leave a comment down below if you're interested in knowing more about the product, and maybe I'll even send you a sample so that you can let other people know how much you like it. Okay, that'll be that. Thank you guys for coming out. Shalom.